Ready? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here to report that Ricky Crouch has been indicted by an Erie County grand jury after a presentation by the Erie County District Attorney's Office, specifically the three people standing with me here today: Homicide Bureau Chief Gene Partridge, Homicide Assistant District Attorney Chris Safuco, and Special Victims Domestic Violence Assistant District Attorney Meredith Mohan. This is a 9-count indictment that supersedes the previous 2-count indictment that was reported out on July 17th, 2025. Mr. Crouch appeared before Judge Kelly Vacco, Supreme Court Justice Kelly Vacco, at Erie County Medical Center this morning. The judge actually went out to Erie County Medical Center and conducted the arraignment on this 9-count indictment. He has been remanded, continued to be remanded, and will return to court on September 3rd, 2025. This indictment encompasses 3 separate incidents that occurred, and the allegations against Mr. Crouch I will outline here today. All of these incidents occurred at the home of Amanda Thompson, his former girlfriend, at her home at 645 South Ogden Street in the city of Buffalo. They occurred on April 12th, May 19th, and July 17th. I'm going to go through this in a chronological order, but the first 2 incidents involved allegations of a burglary, and the final incident, which occurred on July 17th, of course, is related to the murder of Amanda Thompson by Mr. Crouch. So I'm going to go through this in a chronological order, and with respect to the indictment, again, I say it's a 9-count indictment, but the allegations with respect to April 12th, 2025 are that Ricky Crouch unlawfully entered into the home of Amanda Thompson with the intent to commit a crime. He entered through a rear bedroom window. Her 14-year-old son was at home at the time. He was home alone. He realized that Mr. Crouch was in the home, and Mr. Crouch apparently was taking property from the home. He apparently had lived at the South Ogden address. He had moved out and had not been a resident or allowed to be a resident there for several months, but he had been in approximately a 4-year relationship with Amanda Thompson. So he had snuck into the rear bedroom window. He had taken some property, and then he essentially was leaving or left without any significant incident between him and the 14-year-old son. At which point in time, the 14-year-old son shut and locked the door, and then shortly thereafter, Crouch kicked in the door, came back into the home, and physically confronted the 14-year-old boy. The defendant then fled the scene. That was April 12, 2025. Now, no charges were pursued and no order of protection was issued, but that incident occurred, and that is the first 2 counts of the indictment. Again, that's a burglary in the 2nd degree, a Class C violent felony, and the endangering the welfare of a child count with respect to the 14-year-old boy. That is a Class A misdemeanor. That's incident number 1 and the first 2 counts of the indictment. The second incident occurred on May 19th, 2025, and the allegations are that Amanda Crouch was at home with her 13-year-old daughter and her other daughter, a 10-year-old little girl, at approximately 8 o'clock in the evening. Amanda Thompson was talking to Crouch outside the home when she ran into the house and then locked the door behind her. Crouch again kicked in the door, pushed Thompson onto the couch in front of her child, and demanded that she give him his phone. He ended up fleeing the scene, leaving the house, fleeing the scene in a vehicle, and she then called the police, reported to the police the incident, and the police pursued him. And within about 10 minutes, a short distance, like a mile or so from the home, he was located. He was stopped by the police. After an initial stop, Crouch fled the scene, and another chase ensued. Additional Buffalo Police Department officers responded, and they drove and followed him to what was a dead-end street at Bailey and Barnett Place, where Crouch abandoned his vehicle, got out, and fled. He was chased into a wooded area where he was ultimately detained a couple hundred feet from where he had abandoned his vehicle. Right in the area where he was detained by the police, there was a loaded, unlawfully possessed firearm, a 9mm firearm, that was recovered at that location. It was a loaded pistol in any event. He was taken into custody. He was arrested that night, and he was brought into court the following day. He appeared before a Buffalo City Court judge on May 20th, 2025, and the charges were burglary and the possession of that loaded firearm. Our office, at the arraignment, we appeared. We asked the judge to remand him. The judge set bail, and he posted bail that day. He was released and got out, and that afternoon there was another incident, which I'll get to in a second. But that incident that I just described, that occurred on May 19th, he was charged in this indictment by the Erie County Grand Jury of 1 burglary in the 2nd degree, again, unlawfully entering to the home of Amanda Thompson with intent to commit a crime therein, the endangering the welfare of a child, that again is a misdemeanor, and then the criminal possession of a weapon, which is a C felony, just like the burglary. They're both C violent felonies. So those are the counts 3, 4, and 5 in this current indictment. The next incident actually happened the same day that he posted bail and was released. That is a case that's continuing to be pending in Buffalo City Court. It's actually returnable on August 5th, I believe, next week. That is not part of this indictment. We could not move forward with the allegations contained in that complaint, but it's still pending in Buffalo City Court. And because it's part of the sort of chronological narrative that's been out there in the public and that's been reported on, I'm just going to describe it briefly, but it's not part of the allegations contained in this indictment. After he was released, posted bail, he went over and was seen by Amanda Thompson near her home, and there was an allegation that there was some harassment. Now, he was apparently trying to retrieve some of his personal property from the home. That was authorized pursuant to the order of protection that had been issued by the judge at the original arraignment on the burglary. The order of protection authorized him to go to the home and, with police supervision and help, obtain some of his property. That's what took place. And then at the conclusion of that, there was a minor incident that gave rise to a complaint by Amanda Thompson that resulted in a harassment violation charge, along with that a second violation of an order of protection. Because Amanda Thompson is the only witness regarding that incident, we did not present any proof into the grand jury, and that case is not going to be moving forward. Again, we will appear in Buffalo City Court on that case, and my expectation is that the case will be dismissed. The final incident is the murder of Amanda Thompson on July 17th, 2025. Ricky Crouch showed up at Amanda Thompson's home on South Ogden approximately 11:30 p.m. He essentially left without incident and then came back approximately 40 minutes later, just after midnight, on July 17th, just after midnight. He returned to 645 South Ogden and exited his vehicle. Amanda Thompson and her adult daughter were sitting on the front porch of their home. He exited his vehicle, immediately walked towards the front porch, and started firing a 9mm pistol rounds into Amanda Thompson. She was struck multiple times. Her adult daughter witnessed those shots. She fled into the home. There were a number of children in the home that she was trying to protect, and she called 911. When she came back out onto the porch, she heard more gunshots before she came back onto the porch. And when she came back out, her mom was unresponsive and died at the scene. There's a lot of evidence that's been recovered in this case, including 9mm fired cartridge casings from the scene on that South Ogden Street home. The Buffalo police responded quickly and attended to Amanda Thompson, where, as I indicated, she was declared dead at the scene. She suffered gunshot wounds to her head and chest, to her neck and chest. And Crouch was on the run. The search for him began immediately that early in the morning. We had information early that morning and late into the later morning that he was in Pennsylvania. At some point, we learned that his vehicle had come back into New York State and that he was on the New York State Thruway. The New York State Police and a number of other agencies were engaged in this attempt to detain Crouch. He was, as I indicated, he was on the New York State Thruway somewhere between exits 57 or I should say 58 and 57 as he was heading back into Erie County in Hamburg. He crashed his vehicle. The vehicle caught on fire and was significantly damaged in this accident. There is the remains of what we believe to be a 9mm pistol that was recovered from that vehicle, along with significant other evidence. There is video evidence, DNA evidence, firearms evidence, of course, digital forensic evidence, including phone records and the actual phones themselves. There are a number of interviews and witnesses in this case, and there is going to be a final autopsy report that will be obtained and that will be a part of this case. So that last incident that occurred on July 17th, the murder of Amanda Thompson, is the final 4 counts in the indictment, counts 6, 7, 8, and 9. Count 6 is an allegation of murder in the first degree. That is and as I indicated, this is a superseding indictment. The original indictment had a count of murder in the second degree and the criminal possession of a weapon. The grand jury returned a count of murder in the first degree, and I'm going to read to you the statute that sets forth the elements that we have to prove and that the grand jury has indicted Mr. Crouch on for that count. And that is a person is guilty of murder in the first degree when, with intent to cause the death of another person, he causes the death of such person. Now that's the same language as murder in the second degree. The additional element in the murder in the first degree count indicates that in addition, prior to this killing, the defendant has been convicted of murder as defined in section 125.25 of the New York State Penal Law. That's an element of the proof. I know that's been reported in the media. I don't typically talk about criminal defendants' priors, and there's a reason for that. The reasons are in New York State, as many of you are aware, and I'm mostly informing the public here, but there are specific prohibitions against me or any district attorney talking about a criminal defendant's criminal history. I don't normally do it. In this particular case, that prior is an element that we have to prove in order to establish that murder in the first degree, so that's why I mention it here. In addition, he's been charged with murder in the second degree, which I just essentially read to you, a count of criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree, again, a Class C violent felony, and an aggravated criminal contempt, a Class D felony. Now, it's that essentially, concludes the description of the allegations contained in the indictment. And as I am obligated to say, and always do say, Mr. Crouch is presumed innocent until and unless he is proven guilty in a court of law. If, in fact, he is convicted of the highest count in this indictment, the murder in the first degree, he will face a potential sentence of life without parole. This is an awful, tragic case. This is a domestic violence case of the worst kind, and Ms. Thompson is leaving behind 3 minor children, including a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 10-year-old. She's also got an adult child, who I referenced earlier, and this is a tragedy. We are going to move forward with this indictment before Judge Vacco. The investigation will continue in the analysis of all of the evidence obtained in this case. We will move forward toward a trial date. I should say that, in addition to the lawyers here in my office, we have had a lot of people that work for the Erie County District Attorney's Office involved in this case right from the beginning, since back in May. we have a number of victim advocates in this office who I've talked about before. We have 15, as a matter of fact, that work in our office. It's an unusual thing to have victim advocates work directly in the district attorney's office, and they are of a tremendous benefit to us. Some of them were very actively involved in working with Ms. Thompson and her family now since her death in trying to move forward with the allegations, and now we are. We've also had great investigators that work, retired police officers that have helped us on this case and worked with the family, now the surviving members of the family, as we've moved forward here. In addition, the Buffalo Police Department, the New York State Police, the Erie County Sheriff's Department, the U.S. Marshals, the town of Hamburg Police, and the town of Evans Police were all very quickly engaged in the search and the ultimate capture of Ricky Crouch. He is, again, as I've indicated, he is remanded. He has a right to a trial. We are going to proceed forward with these allegations. And, at least I'm here today to at least announce that we have, brought this part of the investigation forward with a conclusion of the Erie County Grand Jury. So happy to take any questions. I know there's been a lot of reporting about this case, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, understanding that there are certain things that I cannot talk about in accordance with the rules of professional conduct and the laws of New York.
Do we have a motive, and where is he? Is he still in the hospital, or is he at the holding center?
He is in the hospital. He's at the Erie County Medical Center. We were hoping to be able to arraign him in open court, but he's still in the hospital.
How bad were his injuries after that car crash?
We don't have a real clear indication on that. They don't provide us a lot of details, quite frankly. But I will say this: we were hoping and expecting that we were going to be able to arraign him in court today. So I think that we can expect that he'll be recovering and able to appear in court at the September appearance.
And the motive again? Do we have
I think the motive is violence. It's a violent homicide. It's a domestic violence case. I can't explain it. We don't have to prove motive, as everyone knows, but I don't know what else to say other than this is a horrific, violent crime.
Because of New York's current bail laws, this man was let out and a woman is now dead. My question to you is, what's it going to take to keep people like Richie Crouch behind bars? And does it frustrate you as the district attorney to have to work a case like this that should have never happened?
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I think you started your question by saying because of New York State's bail laws?
Bail reform.
Yeah. So I don't agree with that, okay? We were in court in May. We asked the judge to remand him. That is the right that we have as the prosecuting agency for Erie County. This case is a violent crime that we were prosecuting back in May, the burglary and the criminal possession of a weapon. It's completely authorized for us to ask for bail or for us to ask for remand. We did. The judge could have remanded him. The judge did not. Judges have the discretion to not remand people. They can set bail. The judge could have set bail on this case, even after the murder. We asked for remand. The judge didn't do it. It's not about bail reform. I understand that narrative that's out there. I understand why people want to push that narrative, but I think it's important for me to explain this. This is not a case of bail reform. This same exact scenario could have happened 10 years ago, long before bail reform. Our office and every office in New York State would go in front of a judge on violent crimes. Before and after bail reform, we would ask for remand, and the judge has the discretion and the responsibility to make a decision on bail. And that's what happened in this case. At the end of the day, quite frankly, and I appreciate your outrage, I share it, okay? But there's one person responsible for this horrific crime, okay? And the Erie County Grand Jury has filed those allegations, and that's Ricky Crouch. He committed this horrific crime. I think it's a little bit of a red herring to suggest that anybody else or legislatures or governor is responsible for this. It's not the case. We asked for remand. He was released, and he committed a horrific crime. And I don't want this to get lost in that conversation. Domestic violence is a significant issue in this community and across this nation. And that's what this case is about.
If he had been remanded, he wouldn't have been able to kill her.
Sure, I agree with that.
And that's ultimately, my question has to do with, I guess, judge's discretion in your views there. There was the May 20th incident where $50,000 in cash bail was set. You just said, you wanted that remand. Then he was picked up again for what sounds like a violation of those bail conditions, right, the temporary protection order. Why not ask for the remand there again and then instead ask for the $30,000 and then the judge ultimately releasing him on his own recognizance?
Sure. So on that second incident, we are not authorized to ask for remand in that situation. It's a misdemeanor. That misdemeanor charge, we could only ask for, we can ask for monetary bail. We can't ask for remand. And at the end of the day, the judge didn't set bail, released him on his own recognizance. The nature of the allegations, it was a harassment violation. Look, these are difficult decisions. None of these judges expect anybody to go out and commit a horrific crime after they release them. Okay, I think it's appropriate for me to say again that the person responsible for this crime, in accordance with the allegations set forth by the Erie County Grand Jury, is Ricky Crouch. And while I agree with the frustration, and I understand, I've been talking about bail reform for a long time. Okay, there are certainly some things that should be adjusted continually. They have adjusted it since the beginning. But the problem is now, right now, today, in front of you guys, I'm talking about bail reform. That's not what this case is about. This case is about Ricky Crouch committing a horrific crime. Again, I'm going to say that he's presumed innocent. These are allegations. He's presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law. But that's what this case is about. It's not about the laws of New York. It's about someone willing to commit a horrific crime.
But along with that,
So New York State doesn't allow judges to consider if someone is a danger to the public when setting bail. Obviously, in that second incident, you guys asked for remand, bail was set, he goes today. So I'm curious, what does that say about the current legal framework in New York State when it comes to considering dangerousness?
So I'll address it, okay? But again, we're now in the rabbit hole, talking about bail reform, okay? And the New York State Court of Appeals has said that judges on harm analysis, okay, and that's what this was after that second incident, can consider someone's dangerousness to the community. Now that's not been enacted by the New York State Legislature. It's not in the statute. You are correct, but it was never in the statute. It wasn't in the statute 10 years ago. It wasn't in the statute 20 years ago. New York State does not allow judges in the first instance, in that first burglary charge in May, to consider someone's dangerousness to the community. You are correct about that. But the law didn't change that. When they changed the law in 2020, they didn't change that. They didn't eliminate the dangerousness standard. Now, I am a person that believes that the judges should be allowed to consider that right in the first instance. I do think that's appropriate. But I don't think that that's what happened here. Okay, that's not what this case is about.
But do you believe in some instance, some way, that the system, whether it's the judges, the courts, kind of failed Amanda Thompson? He served over 20 years in prison. His parole ended in 2023. I mean, if he had been locked up when he went to court the first time, and
Yeah.
it was already indicated, we wouldn't probably be here.
Sure.
So did the system fail her?
Well, I'm not, Claudia, I understand the question. I appreciate it. I think it's trying to, sort of make someone else responsible, make other people responsible for this horrific crime. At the end of the day, we were in court on a violent crime. We asked the judge to remand him, and the judge made a decision, okay? Of course, the judge never would have expected this to have happened. But it's not bail reform. It's not his early discharge from parole. I do think that there is time for those kinds of conversations. I do think it's appropriate, and I'd be happy to engage in them. For me, in my role right now, I think my obligation is to finish this investigation, and prosecute Mr. Crouch to the fullest extent of the law. That's what we intend on doing. I understand that there's a lot of people out in the community that want answers to these questions. I fielded those questions from a number of leaders in this community, and I'm trying to be, transparent and respond to those questions. But I also have to be careful. Number one, stay in my lane, okay? And questioning, the legislation and the judges and the governor in this regard, I think is veering from my lane at this stage of this proceeding, okay? I do think that there is an analysis that should be done and will be done, and our office is going to participate in it. But for right here and right now, what we are doing is moving forward with the allegations against Mr. Crouch.
When you talk about the analysis that you just alluded to, what does that look like? What will you be looking at when it comes to that?
So there are going to be a number of partners of ours involved in the criminal justice system that will look at everything that happened here and what could have been done differently and what maybe should have been done differently, and that'll be part of a review that takes place. It happens on these fatality cases involving domestic violence.
You mentioned the services that the DA's office has for victims of domestic violence. Before she was murdered, obviously we have several cases leading up to the shooting. Was she offered any kind of temporary housing or support or anything to protect her prior to that shooting from the advocates here in this office?
Yes, we were in constant communication with her. Our advocates were. We were trying to work with her. And, I'm not going to get any more into the details, but you are correct to ask the question, and that kind of process was undergoing from the beginning.
But clearly something went wrong. I don't know if you found that in your investigation. Something went wrong because they had been together. We had talked to them before. For him to come back and do this, what was the tipping point there?
For him, I don't know. I really don't. Again, I think you're getting to a question of motive. I think that this will, all of the evidence, the proof, the witnesses, including, the family, will come to court and testify, and will prove the case in front of a jury. But exactly what was in his mind, I'd be speculating.
And is his condition improving so that we will see him, or is he?
That's my understanding, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, do you have any indication why he went to the home, left without harming her, and then a short time later returned and fatally shot her that same evening?
Not that I can share with any certainty right now.
Okay, and then following up on that, did they have any interactions, phone calls, text messages, social media, in the hours or days
Yes.
to the fatal shooting?
Yes.
Can you describe the nature?
I don't want to get into the details of that kind of evidence.
Can I just get clarity?
Sure.
We've mentioned the harm thing. I spoke to DA John Flynn months ago talking about bail reform and things like that. So the harm is not currently in statute for judges to use?
Yes, it is.
harm?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
So in this case, I noticed in the release, it did talk about 2 separate crimes involving harm to an identifiable person. Wouldn't that have met that harm standard that judge could have used?
It did. That was the argument we made.
On May 23rd?
Yes.
And then the judge released him on his own recovery?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Anybody else?
Point of clarity, she had 4 children. None of them were Ricky Crouch's children, correct?
That's correct.
As far as you know?
Yes. Thank you.